Aloha and welcome to Aloha United We Stand. This is a weekly show about Aloha United Way that broadcasts every Thursday at 12 o'clock. We're live in the Think Tech Studios in Pioneer Plaza in downtown Honolulu. I am here with two very exciting guests today, but I should mention that I am the temporary or stand-in host today. Jay Fidel, who normally hosts this, is away at a special forum that Think Tech Hawaii is doing today, and so he couldn't make it. But he will be here next week in his bright and shiny face, hosting the program Aloha United We Stand. Today, we have the CEO of Aloha United Way, Cindy Adams, and we also have Lori Lau, who's the Director of Workforce Development for Goodwill Hawaii. And we're going to talk about impact areas and what's going on and how we can help and what progress and challenges we have. So welcome, Cindy and Lori.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What I'd like to ask, if you don't mind, and since I'm the newbie host today, maybe you can educate me a little bit on the impact area. What exactly are we talking about?
So community impact from an Aloha United Way perspective is really about three specific areas, and they are education, poverty prevention, and safety net. And these three impact areas are specific areas where undesignated funding that comes in from donors over the course of a year ends up being distributed to these three impact areas. And we do that through a very rigorous process. And so the areas that were selected were actually driven in large part by feedback that we received from the community. So education, so if you think about the three impact areas, really education and poverty prevention are kind of focused on upstream programs, initiatives, and activities that are meant to be primarily focused on prevention. So investments that we can make in our children, for example, how do we prevent poverty and homelessness? And then the third impact area is what we call our safety net services. And those are much more focused on kind of crisis and intervention. So in that particular bucket, we would be funding programs such as emergency shelters, food banks, and also substance abuse rehabilitation, those kinds of programs, domestic violence programs like that.
And this is statewide. This is on every island.
So this is Aloha United Way is focused actually on Oahu, so It's the city and county of Honolulu. There are other neighbor island United Ways that are focused on the other counties as well. And so this is actually, community impact is a strategy that we embarked on. It's probably 8 to 9 years ago now. It was a very significant shift for the United Way organizations. And Aloha United Way was actually kind of one in the kind of the leading pack in terms of adopting this kind of a strategy and a philosophy for the organization. And it was a way for us to take a look at what the community thought were very significant areas in which to focus and allow the undesignated funding that comes into the organization to be directed to those areas. And as I said, we have a very kind of a rigorous and transparent process that allows us to make those distributions to various programs and the agencies who support those programs.
So it's these other agencies that are actually out there, boots on the ground, making this all work.
Yes, exactly. And so today, one of the things that we wanted to talk about in terms of community impact area focus is poverty prevention. I think, homelessness in general is very top of mind for our community, for the state.
Certainly been in the news a lot.
Yes, having that much visibility in the community is kind of a double-edged sword. The really great news is I think people have kind of, people meaning us, residents in our community, have a heightened awareness and sensitivity to the homeless problem. And I think, it really causes us to think about how we can come together to help address the issue and start to really shrink the problem, address it in a meaningful way that allows us to reduce the number of homeless, get people housed in permanent housing, and provide those that need wraparound services, whether they be mental health or physical or childcare, the kinds of services they need in order to stay permanently housed. So poverty prevention is very important.
Right, and that poverty prevention, I guess also, as you mentioned, helps the homeless situation.
Sure.
But also, I guess, helps with keeping people from becoming homeless.
That's right, exactly.
So it helps in two different ways.
It does, and I think that's one of the great things about some of the programs that exist within that impact area. Today, we're really going to talk about how do we help prevent poverty. So we're trying to kind of skinny down the pipeline of homeless, if that's a good way for people to think about it. But there are certainly investments that we make in services that help people who are already struggling with poverty and homelessness, and how do we bring them back from that and into a quality of life that's much better than where they are today.
Right. And Lori, how does Goodwill fit into all of this? What's your role in working with Aloha United Way?
So Goodwill Hawaii has been fortunate to receive funding in the area of impact of poverty prevention. And so one of the things that the funding has allowed us to be able to do is, in conjunction with our volunteer income tax assistance, which is free tax services that we're able to provide to low to moderate.
AKA VITA.
VITA,
Yeah,
the VITA program. So in conjunction with that program, we're also able to provide financial literacy to the tax filers when they're doing their return, and then also monthly workshops to the community.
And what kind of monthly workshops do you offer?
So when we're talking about the area of impact for the anti-poverty, it's really focused on education, being able to assist people with things like budgeting, savings, even things like avoiding potential fraud or identity theft, talking to them about the different banking services that are available to them. And again, it's a really nice combination with VITA, because when they come in to do their tax return, we really have all of the household information and their financial information right in front of us. And so it's a great time to have that conversation.
Right. And so that's part of what Goodwill does. A lot of other things. There's workforce development that you are in charge of that helps, fight some of the poverty issues by training workers to be, I guess, more employable.
Sure.
And so it does have a direct impact. I know financial literacy and VITA is an important component of that, but that seems to maybe come after they're working and making a little bit of money and trying to prevent them from going back or slipping backwards again. So, but Goodwill does participate in getting people out of that homeless category into, a better life for themselves.
We definitely do. Through our programs, we do a lot of job readiness training. And we have different curriculum that we use to assist people in becoming job ready. And then also we do retention services, so helping people also hold on to their jobs. And VITA is that natural progression of, now that you are either back to work for the first time in a long time, or maybe this is your first job, you're going to have that tax obligation, so we're able to provide that service as well.
Well, and I know this is going to sound a little silly, but sometimes it's good to have a little bit of a tax obligation, because that means that you're actually employed and you're working and you're moving forward.
And able to qualify for the credits, like the earned income credit.
Very good. And so I guess, Goodwill is one of your partners in the community to help deliver some of these poverty prevention programs.
Right, yes. So there, one thing I wanted to maybe clarify or elaborate. So financial literacy, to the extent that we can deliver that education in elementary school and through families who are working, who can sit down with mom and dad at the table and understand what the family budget looks like. And I have to say, it's very uncommon to have children sitting at the table while mom and dad are working on the budget. But that's really one of the first places where children can learn about financial literacy and budgeting. And, if they get some sort of an allowance, some of it goes to savings and some of it goes to, kind of immediate gratification. But to the extent that we can do something like that in a scalable and sustainable way in our community much, much earlier on than when somebody is coming through goodwill and looking for help, we would have prevented poverty that much sooner.
Right.
And so on that statement, there are a number of organizations that exist in our community who are working with private sector to deliver financial literacy courses to kids in elementary school, to intermediate school kids, to high school kids as well. So it's really important. And so we're trying to do that early, and where we miss some parts of the population, I think there's absolutely opportunity for us to continue to figure out how we fill those gaps and help bring people back into a better quality of life.
You know, and we're not here to talk about this, but I'm the chair of Junior Achievement in Hawaii this year. And I know that some of the programs that we offer through the education of the elementary and middle school has the peripheral benefit that they take some of that knowledge and they actually bring it home with them.
Yeah.
And they share that with the family. And that's, I see that as only a positive thing.
Yes.
And getting to your point, getting as early in that cycle as possible and begin that orientation and education, I think is very positive. Prevention is, I guess, the key.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And definitely in the spirit of what you were talking about, when we've been providing the monthly workshops, we've really been trying to focus on different groups maybe that have been underserved in this area. So we have been providing to different at-risk youth organizations.
Sure. Yes.
We focus on people with disabilities and coming out of incarceration, and even non-citizens. So really trying to make sure that the community is aware and that we're interacting with these other groups that may not have the knowledge.
Very good. Now, it sounds like you've got a full plate of opportunities to work on. How big of a problem do you think this is? Is there any way to quantify it?
You mean financial illiteracy?
Maybe
or?
the number of people that need to be served. I mean,
my goodness.
Is it a huge number?
It's certainly much larger than the number of people who are being served. We know that because of the size of the population in Hawaii who is at the poverty level.
Exactly.
But, having said that, there are lots of very valid reasons why people fall into that kind of stratum. And it's not always because of lack of financial, background or inability to manage a budget, right? There are lots of reasons why people fall into poverty, fall into homelessness.
It's reasons beyond their control.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So I don't want to mischaracterize. This is certainly not a silver bullet. We know that there are many reasons that cause these kinds of situations for families, but this is definitely one that we know is critically important, one that we know if we can do it earlier in a child's life, that it has the impact is along an entire continuum, right? It helps that child, it helps that family, it helps that child as he or she graduates from high school, it helps them when they're in college. They become, if they're able to have a living wage, they contribute to the tax base, their family is more financial. It's a cycle. It's a cycle.
And it carries on from generation
Absolutely,
to generation.
right,
So,
absolutely.
very good. Well, we have reached a point where we need to take a brief break.
Okay.
And maybe when we come back from the break, we'll dive into a little bit more of the details of what these programs are that specifically will prevent or help turn around some of the poverty issues that we have. But this is Reg Baker. I'm the acting host for Aloha United We Stand this week. We'll be back in just a minute.
Hi, I'm Jay Fidel. That's Ted Ralston. Ted is the host of Where the Road Leads. It shows every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. It's about technology. It's about how people collaborating and solve problems with modern technology. It's where the road leads. We all know that. We should all be listening. Join us there, 4 to 5 p.m. every Friday. Now, what about that do you agree with?
All of it.
I knew he'd say that. Aloha. Say aloha.
Aloha.
Good.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard. I'm the host of Center Stage here on Think Tech. This show is so very dear to my heart. We talk with artists of various different ilk here about the process that they go through for their art. So we talk about what they're doing, why they are doing it, how they do it. And it's a show that is inspiring. This is what I hear from people all the time. And a show that will teach you something, sometimes something about yourself. I hope you'll join us. The show is Center Stage. It's on Think Tech every Wednesday at 2 o'clock. We'll see you then.
Do you service?
Aloha
our island?
and welcome back. This is acting host Reg Baker. I'm standing in for Jay Fidel today, and we're at Aloha United We Stand. I'm here today with the CEO of Aloha United Way, Cindy Adams, and then also the Director of Workforce Development for Goodwill Hawaii, Lori Lau. We're having a really interesting conversation on the community impact and what these two organizations are doing to help address some of the poverty issues that we have here in Hawaii. And Lori, you've got some pretty specific programs that are designed to work with the people that need this type of support. And could you elaborate a little bit on what those programs are?
So something that we definitely want to highlight because of the timeliness of it is this VITA program that we've been talking about today. And we would love for individuals that would qualify for VITA,
Which is the volunteer income
tax assistance
right.
program, to come on down and let us do their tax returns for them.
Right.
So generally, eligibility for the VITA program would be is if your household is earning $54,000 or less
Okay.
in 2015, and you are not a homeowner or a business owner. We would love, again, for you to make an appointment with us, which you can do online at our website. Goodwill's website is highgoodwill.org.
Okay.
And there'll be a little pink pig that you can click on to make your tax appointment.
Feed the pig.
Feed the
Yeah.
pig.
The Hawaii Society CPAs uses that all the time.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, good.
And we're doing tax services statewide. So we have 3 different locations on Oahu. We also have an office on Kauai, Maui, one in Hilo, and one in Kona.
Oh, so you're all over the state. Good for you. And this is important because, and I was a volunteer at one point for the VITA program, and I know how important it is. It's a pretty broad spectrum of people that help with that or need that help. And it could be the senior citizens, it can be, the youth that may be unemployed, whatever. But some of the important components of that is some of these credits that they can get back that are refundable. This could actually put money in people's pockets if they get in there and get these returns done. So you don't need to be afraid of coming in and working with somebody and be part of the system because it could actually be very beneficial to you.
So one of the things about the VITA program, again, to help alleviate anyone's fears, is that it is free. So the tax returns are done by certified volunteers, and there's no charge to get both your federal and state returns done. And when we're talking about coming to use the VITA site, one of the things that VITA can do is, like you said, help a household really maximize the credits and other things that would help maximize their return. And as you mentioned, some of these credits are really valuable in terms of anti-poverty because things like the earned income credit and the child tax credit are really designed to be able to put money back into the low and moderate income households. And it really makes a difference for millions of Americans being able to stay above the federal poverty line.
And some of these credits can be fairly significant. They can really make a difference. And so it's certainly worthwhile to explore that. How many, just out of curiosity, how many returns do you help prepare every year through the VITA program?
So Goodwill actually is one of the larger organizations in the state doing VITA. Last season, we assisted over 1,800 households.
Wow.
And this season, we've set our goal at more than 2,200.
Wow, that's a big number. Very good. And do you have enough volunteers to be able to do all of this?
We have been recruiting and training volunteers. We have a great partnership actually with Bank of Hawaii, and we do get a lot of Bank of Hawaii volunteers at our sites. And then also Goodwill employees and other community members.
Very good. Well, thank you, Bank of Hawaii. That's great to get that kind of corporate support for this program. How does somebody who may be in need of these services what do they have to do? What's the process of going and setting up an appointment? How do they set up the appointment? I know you mentioned a website, but not everybody has a computer.
So if you don't have a computer so that you can't book your appointment online, you can also give us a call. The main Goodwill number is 808-836-0313. And if you can't give us a phone call, you could also stop by the site. We do take in walk-ins. And if we're not able to serve you that day, we can help set up an appointment for you at the tax clinics.
Right. Now, is one of the requirements, do you have to have an address in order to have this done? Because there may be some people that are in that poverty spectrum that maybe doesn't have a permanent address. Do you do anything to help in that area?
So we actually can complete a tax return if you don't have an address. Even if you don't have your own phone number, we do try to collect some contact information from you in case we need to reach you for a question on your return.
So, you know, almost anybody then, whether you have a home or not, can get this support and get this service and actually get some of these refunds back that can help them, you know, put together, you know, I guess, keep the family together and help keep everybody fed.
Absolutely.
Very good. And I guess you do this on the neighbor islands as well. You mentioned that. So they can walk in and have this done all across the state.
All across the state.
Very good.
We're looking forward to seeing everybody.
All right, super. Cindy, do you have other programs that, you know, or other agencies that work in the VITA program? Is Goodwill the primary one?
I think Goodwill is the primary. As Lori said, they are the largest one that services. You know, and I want to reiterate a couple of points that were made in that conversation. One is it's a fairly easy first step. Goodwill has additional capacity to process more families and tax returns. So I would really encourage people to pick this up. I think some of the hurdle to accessing this is people don't really understand how simple the process is. It's so much easier when you don't have to do it yourself and somebody's asking you for information and they're helping you fill out the form. The other thing is, given the segment of the population that the VITA program is looking to serve, many of the people that they serve actually do end up getting a tax refund. So I think that's the other hurdle to access, is people think they're going to have to end up paying the government more money in taxes, right? But it usually ends up frequently in a tax refund. So to your point about this is money coming back to a family that who probably is very much in need of this additional income, is really, really important. And then the third piece, the third benefit is, you know, as Goodwill is working with these families, there's absolutely an opportunity to offer additional services, particularly as it relates to financial literacy, sitting down with families and helping them to develop budgets or understand how they can best manage the money that they are receiving, which may or may not include the tax return. But all of those things are really great services that Goodwill offers to the community. And I hope that we see greater demand than the capacity that that Lori just talked about. That would be tremendous.
Well, I guess if we're lucky, we might even hit 2,400 or 2,500 then. Yeah.
That would be fantastic.
Good. But, you know, your point makes a lot of sense, Cindy. I mean, you've got all the information right there. You've got the tax return. You've got all these documents. You have a pretty good understanding of what the family situation is. These professionals that are putting together these tax returns might have some pretty valuable insight that they can share. And is that part of the process?
It's definitely part of the process. You know, when you come in, we really strive for you to be able to understand how some of the different decisions you made, whether it's not the exemptions you've claimed or different things that you've purchased, how that affects your tax return, and help you to be educated and understand your tax liability so that you can make informed choices for the next year.
Right, so you can do a little bit of planning.
Absolutely.
Actually, very good. And then now you also have workshops too that are kind of a continuation of some of this. And it's not just during tax season, but you can also provide some support going forward.
We do the financial literacy workshops year round. And if someone is interested in attending, they can call us to find out when the next workshop is scheduled, or also at one of our VITA tax clinic sites. If you express interest in attending a workshop, we can collect your information to contact you when the next one is scheduled.
Very good. And do you have, I mean, the VITA program workshops or locations are they there year-round or are they seasonal?
Seasonal.
Okay.
So they're at our Goodwill facilities for the most part, but we only open up to do tax returns during the tax season.
Right, okay, but the facility, the Goodwill facility is where they're located, so they could always go to that facility and find out where these workshops are and when and how to sign up. Very good. Sounds like a great program.
We think so.
Yeah, good. And I guess you've been doing this for a long time?
Goodwill has been doing VITA for a long time. Actually, we are, I believe, entering our 12th season.
Very good, very good. And at one point, now I am a CPA and I also do tax returns, and I can tell you that doing 1,800 or 2,000 or 2,500 returns is a
That's a
big
lot.
job.
It
That's
is.
pretty high volume.
Yeah.
And to have this service free for the community, for the people who need that, is a real benefit.
It
So,
is.
how do you do the outreach to, other than say a show like this? I mean, what other types of activities you do to make sure that people are aware of these opportunities?
So hopefully people have seen some of the different promotional things we've done so far. We've been on some of the different morning news segments. Maybe you've heard us on the radio. There's also been some print coverage. And we're definitely advertising within our programs, because Goodwill also services, as a nonprofit, over 15,000 individuals every year. We've also outreached to our community partners, so different other organizations that also service individuals. We've provided information for them to share with their participants as well.
And I would imagine there's a lot of word of mouth going around too, that people that have used this service in the past would go out and spread the word a little bit.
One of the greatest advertisements, you're absolutely right, is a satisfied customer. So when someone comes in and they appreciate the service, the very next week they bring their whole family back, and now we're doing auntie and grandma and the kids also.
That's right.
So.
So they get one return done with a refund. They bring everybody and say, "Can we get some more of this?"
That's
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a good way to
Yeah.
work. And I guess does Aloha United Way also help promote?
We do. So we do very similar things. So we have 340 something agencies that we support, and so that's a great vehicle for us to push information out, especially things like the VITA program. So we push it out. Everybody that receives that information is pushing it out to their friends and family and their network as well. So it's a hugely scalable communication effort.
Very good.
Yes.
Well, hopefully with all of this effort going into this thing, we'll be hitting some good numbers here coming up. We'll have to have you come in after tax season and tell us how well it went.
We'll report back.
All right, super. We are approaching another break time here that will take another 60 seconds. We'll take a break. This is Reg Baker. I'm the host standing in for Jay Fidel today for Aloha United We Stand. We broadcast this show every Thursday at 12 o'clock. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. Thank you.
Aloha, I'm Kili'i Akina, president of the Grassroot Institute and host on Ehana Kako, a weekly program on the Think Tech Hawaii broadcast network. Ehana Kako means let's work together. Think of the sad alternative, let's not work together. Here in Hawaii, with all of our diversity and the richness of the people, it's important for us to come together around issues on the basis of what's right and what's good and what's going to serve the common good. And that's what we try to do at Ehana Kako. Every week we interview movers and shakers, people in government, business, and other sectors of society to talk about how to create together a better government, economy, a better world here in Hawaii that can bless the rest of the world. I thank you for your attention to Think Tech Hawaii, and we look forward to seeing you every Monday, 2 to 3 p.m. on the Think Tech Hawaii broadcast network. We're Ehana Kako, and we wish you well. Aloha.
Aloha and welcome back. This is Reg Baker standing in for Jay Fidel on the Aloha United We Stand. I'm here with Cindy Adams and Lori Lau. We're talking about some of the poverty prevention programs, specifically the VITA program, which is a volunteer income tax assistance program that Goodwill works with. And we're hoping to hit some record numbers this year in tax returns that are prepared. But we've got some challenges, and we really need to try to make sure that everybody's comfortable taking advantage of the service. We've got the capacity. Now we need to get the demand. We need to fill up all that capacity. And how can we do that? What's any thoughts on the magic of doing that outreach and bringing people into the program?
Well, I definitely think something that would help is something that we're doing now. Definitely sharing again with friends and family, and within our network that VITA is available. I think that there is still folks out there that haven't heard and are not aware that there are free income tax preparation services for them to utilize. And maybe even some hesitations in terms of using a free tax preparation site. Maybe all of these years you've been trying to do it on your own, or maybe you've been going to a paid tax preparer, and so that's your routine and you feel comfortable. But I really do want to encourage folks to come down because the service is free. The average paid prepared site charges $200 and up for an income tax return. So they're able to save that money of not having to pay for their return. Plus, we can guarantee that we're going to help try to maximize their refund.
That's right. And part of, again, mentioning that I've got a little bit of history doing, tax returns, I know that some of the individuals that do qualify for that earned income credit, and then also for some of the dependent care credits and some of the other refundable credits that are allowable, these can reach into the multiple thousands of dollars. I mean, we could be talking $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in refunds. And that's money that you're sitting there that for people to come in and go through the process of having a return done, it could be put in their pocket fairly quickly.
Because you bring a good point, right? There are definitely those who must file. But then there are a lot of folks who aren't filing who really should. And you should file because of what you're talking about. There's these credits that are on the table that you just have to come in to claim.
Right.
And in general, me personally having done many people's tax return, I've seen refunds up in the $7,000, $8,000 range.
Those are big numbers.
Which is usually you have a family then who's literally crying because that is money that they're going to use to make sure they can pay rent next month. That's money that's going to pay the food. That's money that's going to pay down credit card debt, right? And so these are really households that really have a need for these refunds to be able to make their family budgets work.
Right. No, it can make a big difference in the ability to provide those necessities, that food, clothing, and shelter. And for some people, getting a $7,000 refund, I mean that could be 6-7 months worth of food. And that's definitely beneficial. Do you use tax software? Do your VITA preparers, they don't do this manually. They use some sort of software to do this, right?
So we use the IRS provided TaxWise software. So one of the nice things about coming into a VITA site is we have the ability to electronically file the return.
Right.
That means that the IRS will receive the return faster than if you were to put a stamp on it and put it in the mail. And we also have the ability for folks to receive direct deposit, which also means if they are getting a refund, they can get their refund faster.
Right into their bank account.
Right, directly into their bank account.
And the reason why I brought that up was that, within the software itself, there's diagnostics, there's all kinds of checks that are going on. I mean, this is quality product. I mean, this isn't something that, some person doing part-time on the side. I mean, these are professionals that are coming in to provide this service, doing this on very sophisticated software that does a lot of integrity checks. So it's not a sloppy process. I mean, this is pretty good quality stuff.
Yep, every volunteer tax preparer has been certified. And you're absolutely right. The software is great, and it does a lot to ensure the quality of the return.
Right. Now you're here. Here we go. All right. Sorry about that. The quality, the certifications, the continuing education. I mean, there's tax laws change, and so there's constantly a training process that takes place. So, you know, they're current and they're on top of all of this. So it's a good quality program that you've got. You know, what else can be done to get the outreach to fill the capacity? I mean, if you're 18 and you want to do 25, we've got to have an increase here of about 20 or 30%. So, you know, we need to get the word out and bring these people in and fill up the seats, so to speak. So what kind of creative ideas can we have? Can we get the word out through the business community? Is there some way that we can spread the word that way?
We do that as well. You know, so here's something that's creative, right? Social media. I think another opportunity is for the families that are coming in and give them 10 pieces of information paper or whatever, and say, pass this out to 10 other families that you think might be interested in receiving or qualify for these services. You know, I think one of the challenges is definitely visibility and awareness. And it's amazing to me because this program has been going on for such a long time. I think the other piece is, and I don't know how much of an issue or a challenge this part is, but people should not feel embarrassed that this is a service that they might be able to take advantage of when they come in and have a tax preparer or somebody from Bank of Hawaii work with them to fill this out. There is no judgment on anybody's part, right? The purpose is to prepare the tax papers to maximize the potential refund that is due this person or this family. And so I want to encourage people to not, you know, there's no shame in doing this. There shouldn't be any fear. These are professional people that are doing this. As you said, the software has checks and balances in it. These are, you know, there shouldn't be any fear on that side, but we also don't want people to feel badly that they're able to take advantage of this service. This is something we want to offer to the community. This is something that is of benefit to these individuals and families, and we would like for them to take advantage of it.
Absolutely, and in a lot of ways they're entitled to it. You know, there are provisions built into the Internal Revenue Code that allow for this, that gives them the opportunity. So there should not be any shame involved in going in and just asking for what is there for you to ask for.
Right.
You know, so I think we just need to, you know, make sure that somehow we get that word out there. And maybe one day you can get a truck and put this stuff on a mobile platform and be able to just take it to wherever they're at and get it done.
That's right.
You know, and in today's technology, I tell you, it's not that hard. You know, remote access to some of these you know, terminals or hosted software programs can be done almost anywhere that there's an internet connection.
Yeah, you could set up in front of a grocery store, in front of a bank, almost anywhere, right?
That's right. That's
So
right.
it's great that you brought that up. So for folks to look out for us, because we are planning on having some pop-up days this season.
Pop-up day, what is a pop-up day?
So a pop-up day would be something like you said, where we'll actually go out into the community, and instead of them coming to our brick and mortar site, we'll be able to meet folks out in the community to do their return. And so, you know, for people to look out for when the pop-up days would be scheduled and the times we're going to be available, I would direct them back to the website again, that highgoodwill.org. And there'll definitely be information there if a pop-up date is scheduled in your area and an ability for you to make an appointment.
And is it possible to put some sort of signage maybe in the VITA offices that would announce where these pop-up days are going to be and what date and time? So at least we get that word of mouth working again and kind of get the word out through that way too, because I think that coconut wireless is probably one of the most effective ways of getting the word out.
I think that's a great idea. We definitely will.
Okay, super. What else is going on that we can help fight poverty with?
Well, there are a number of other programs that we support, you know, and I also want to talk about aging as a population that we're looking at as well in terms of poverty prevention. So this is not necessarily something that is top of mind for people when they think about poverty prevention, but another initiative that we support or program that we support is teen pregnancy prevention education. Because we know that if a young lady before the age of 16 gets pregnant, there is a very high likelihood that she will end up on social services, collecting welfare, that sort of thing. And so we support programs that do outreach and educate young women and men about how to manage that in their lives. You know, if we think about going all the way, you know, how far in the front of a person's life can we reach to have an effect on poverty prevention? You know, some of the things that we're looking at are early childhood developmental screenings. So even you know, identifying high risk prenatal situations where we think the child who is going to be born is at risk of developmental delays, right? How do we help, how do we provide those families and those children with services so that they are best prepared to enter kindergarten, and if there's any way possible to divert the special education track.
We have to try to get in front of that.
Yes, exactly. So that's an example of poverty prevention from a very different perspective, not financial, but very much a part of how we can kind of shift the conversation in the community, but also change the size of the pipeline in terms of poverty and homelessness. All of those things are really, really very important.
Well, and you touched on something that has been very top of mind, at least in the CPA community for a while, is the elderly care issue.
Yes.
You know, the population is getting older. You know, I think people of our generation maybe have a sandwich type of situation where you've got younger ones you got to take care of and older ones.
And mom and dad.
It puts a
Yes,
strain
it
on
does.
everybody.
It does.
And some of the challenges in the elderly care arena are different. You know, there's different types of issues there, and some of them are maybe hidden, and you don't always see them as much as you do, say, in a homeless type of situation.
Right. Yep.
Is there a lot of programs that help in that elderly side of the spectrum?
So one of the things that we did this year was allocated a specific amount of money. So it's $1.5 million over 3 years, so $500,000 for each of the next 3 years that are directed to programs that, so when you think about, and I don't know what the federal definition of senior is, but I think it's like 60 or 65 or somewhere around there. So these programs that we're funding are in front of that. So like 50 to 60 to 65. And it's how do we keep our aging parents and grandparents as engaged in the community, as engaged with their families, continuing to maintain a healthy lifestyle, which is not just physical activity, but also the food that they're taking into their bodies, and emotional and psychological stimulation as well. So how do we help them age in place gracefully? Because in Hawaii, we have kind of at least two challenges that are a little bit different than many other cities across the United States. One is we don't have a large number of senior community type housing, which is changing in Hawaii. And we have a culture, a very mixed, diverse culture where we take care of our parents and our grandparents at home. And you're right, it creates a very significant stress on a family, especially best case is a two-income household, right? Where you have two people who are earning an income. If they have children, they're trying to put their children through college, and then they have parents who are
Sometimes two sets of
exactly,
parents, you know, so
right.
We're unfortunately out of time. But this sounds like a topic maybe for another show, is that aging with dignity, you know, the elderly issues, particularly in Hawaii. So, but I just want to thank you both for being here. This is Reg Baker standing in for Jay Fidel for Aloha United We Stand. We broadcast weekly, Thursdays at 12 o'clock. We hope to see you next week. Thank you and aloha.